His name is Thomas, Swiss national, 56 years old. He's sitting in the business lounge of Doha International, a 3-hour layover before his final flight home to Zurich. Outside, an Asian night blinks with runway lights. Around him, businessmen, Arabic coffee, the muted hum of news on overhead screens. Thomas feels a slight chill. He puts it down to the air conditioning. Maybe he overate on the plane, maybe he's just tired. The trip was long, exotic, packed full. 3 weeks in the Atlantic. Islands, whales, birds over cold ocean water. On April 28th, in the Doha Business Lounge, Thomas doesn't know 2 things. First, the chill is not the air conditioning.
Officials will give an update on the deadly Hantavirus outbreak.
Second, 200 yards from where he's sitting, on the plane he just left, one of the passengers has died mid-flight from the same virus. Now let's walk through how this became possible and why a trip that cost 20,000 euros turned out to be biologically unprepared for what it encountered. The MV Hondius, Dutch flag, Polar Class 6 expedition vessel. The cruise was called Atlantic Odyssey. Ticket price, around 20,000 euros. 175 people on board, 114 passengers from 22 countries, and 61 crew. Among the passengers, ornithologists, world travelers, retirees with money and time, people who had spent years wanting to see Tristan da Cunha, people with good health insurance. On April 1st, 2026, the ship left Ushuaia, Argentina. On May 10th, it was met in Tenerife by people in white protective suits carrying disinfectant sprayers. Between those 2 dates, 3 deaths, 8 infected, an incident involving a medical jet over Morocco, panic in 12 countries, and 1 man in a Doha airport lounge with a chill he thought was the air conditioning. Today, I want to walk you through how a single virus, one that most people had never heard of, turned a luxury Atlantic expedition into an international crisis.
3 people are dead.
All we want right now is to feel safe.
Incredibly dangerous disease.
We're not just headlines.
Hantavirus is a family. More than 20 variants found on every inhabited continent. They are carried by rodents, mice, rats, voles that live with the virus their entire lives without getting sick. The virus lives in their saliva, urine, droppings. It all dries out, becomes dust. 1 breath of that dust, and the virus is in your lungs. In North America, the most common strain is called sin nombre. Fatality rate 8 to 10%. Serious, but manageable. And then there's Andes virus. Patagonia, Argentina, and Chile. This one is different for one specific reason. It is the only hantavirus in the world for which human-to-human transmission has been scientifically documented, not rodent to person. That's expected. Person to person, through close, sustained contact in an enclosed space. Fatality rate in the pulmonary stage, 35 to 40%. Here's what that looks like. The virus enters the alveoli, the tiny air sacs deep inside the lungs. There, it attacks the endothelium, the cells lining the blood vessels. The vessels begin to leak. Plasma, the liquid component of blood, seeps out and fills the space that was designed for air. The person drowns, not in water, in their own blood, and it moves fast. Morning, shortness of breath. Afternoon, oxygen mask. Night, intubation or death. No drug to treat it, no vaccine to prevent it. That one detail, human to human, is what turned the tragedy of one 70-year-old Dutch man into an international crisis. It's why Thomas sat in the Doha lounge with a chill that wasn't from the air conditioning. But first, where this came from. His official designation is Case 1. In operational records, he's referred to as Mark, a Dutch national, 70 years old. His wife, 69. On November 27, 2025, they flew into Argentina. This was a serious trip, not a casual one. Mark was an amateur ornithologist. The itinerary had been planned for months. A 40-day road trip through Argentina, then Chile. He crossed the border on January 7, 2026. Then back through Neuquén province in northern Patagonia, one of the most documented Hantavirus cluster zones in the country. Then Misiones, then a brief visit to Uruguay on March 13th. On March 20th, he arrived in Ushuaia, the southernmost city on Earth. Investigators from the Malbrán Institute, Argentina's leading infectious disease research center, established with high probability that infection occurred during a birdwatching excursion to the municipal landfill and adjacent natural areas of Ushuaia. Birders know this spot. Rare species gather here. Tierra del Fuego province had never before recorded a hantavirus case. But the virus may have migrated south, or infection may have occurred earlier in Neuquén, with an incubation period stretching out to weeks. Andes virus can incubate for up to 8 weeks. One breath, dust kicked up by a boot, one moment no camera could have captured. On April 1st, 2026, Mark and his wife boarded the MV Hondius in Ushuaia. The incubation period had already started. On April 6th, Mark felt unwell. Fever, muscle aches, fatigue. The ship's doctor did not suspect hantavirus. He had no diagnostic kit. No ship in the world carries such kits. Nobody imagined this would be necessary. On April 11th, Mark died in his cabin. His body remained on board until April 24th, when the ship reached St. Helena. 13 days. In those 13 days, the virus found new hosts, and one of them was sitting on the upper deck, watching the horizon, not knowing he was already carrying it. Let's map how Andes virus moved from Mark to the next people. The WHO confirmed human-to-human transmission aboard the vessel is epidemiologically documented. This is not airborne spread in the broad sense, not the way flu travels through a crowded subway. Close, sustained contact in an enclosed space. Mark's wife, Case 2, cared for him. She was infected. The ship's doctor, Case 5, examined the patient and spent time close to him. Infected. The expedition guide, Case 6, entered the cabin. Infected. Case 3, another passenger with documented contact. Infected. On April 12th, the day after Mark's death, the captain called the passengers together. Ruhi Chent filmed the announcement. Millions would later watch it.
One of our passengers sadly passed away last night.
The captain said, "The vessel is not a source of infection."
It was due to natural causes, we believe.
The first passenger died from an illness, posing no risk to others. The situation is under control.
I'm told by the doctor we're not infectious, so the ship is safe when it comes to that.
The passengers applauded. Now, Thomas. Thomas was among the 30 passengers who disembarked at St. Helena on April 22nd. He didn't know about the outbreak. The notification from ocean-wide expeditions would come later. For now, everything was fine. A good trip, some tiredness. His route home, April 22nd, St. Helena. April 27th and 28th, Johannesburg, then Doha, then Zurich. The virus traveled with him. In the incubation period, invisible. That same night, Thomas sat in the Doha lounge with his mild chill. Another plane was on the same route, carrying Mark's wife. She had been evacuated earlier as a first-level contact. Her condition deteriorated sharply mid-flight to Johannesburg. On April 26th, she died in a South African clinic. Andes virus, confirmed. Thomas didn't know any of this yet. The Zurich boarding call had just been announced. On May 1st, 3 days after returning to Zurich, Thomas developed a fever, muscle aches, headache. By that point, ocean-wide expeditions had already sent out notifications. Thomas read the email, called his doctor immediately. His doctor sent him not to a walk-in clinic, not to a regular hospital, to the USZ, University Hospital Zurich, Infectious Disease Isolation Unit. On May 5th, 2026, the reference laboratory in Geneva at the University Hospital confirmed the diagnosis. Andes virus. Thomas was case 7. His wife, who had also been aboard, was placed on a 45-day home quarantine. Maximum incubation period. No symptoms developed. In that digital noise, one thing mattered scientifically. The team at Geneva's HUG laboratory did something that changed the situation for the entire world. They were the first to upload the complete genomic sequence of the virus from this cluster to virological.org. That allowed labs in 12 countries to identify the strain without delay. Australia confirmed, the United Kingdom confirmed, Germany confirmed. Thomas didn't know his illness had become a scientific breakthrough. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Atlantic, the ship was still moving. And what happened to the evacuation jet over Morocco didn't make it into any official press release that night. On May 6, 2026, a medical Learjet 45 departed from Cape Verde. On board, 2 confirmed patients, the ship's doctor and the expedition guide, and 1 passenger with suspected infection. Destination, the Netherlands and Germany. Planned refueling stop, Marrakesh, Morocco. Around 4 p.m. local time, Morocco denied the landing. Morocco issued no formal press statement, but Spain's EFE news agency and aviation sources reported the cause. A technical malfunction on board. The isolation bubble of one of the patients, the hermetically sealed transport isolator, had failed in flight. Morocco deemed the risk of ground crew exposure during refueling too high. The plane changed course. Several hours later, it landed at Gando Military Air Base on Gran Canaria, Spain. Spanish military medical crews managed the emergency refueling under strict protocol. No leaks, no public statement that night. The plane flew on to the Netherlands and Germany. Isolation bubble malfunction. That is not a phrase anyone wanted to see in a headline. While the Morocco incident unfolded, the ship itself was closing in on shore. And what the passengers saw through their portholes as they approached Tenerife, they would remember for a long time. Qasem El Hato, 31 years old, a passenger, was filming video on his phone and sending it via WhatsApp hours before arrival. He later gave an interview to the Associated Press. From their portholes, passengers watched, white-suited figures boarding the ship. It looked like an apocalypse movie, he said. The process was tightly coordinated and deeply unsettling. Passengers were ferried from the ship to shore in small boats. The gangway was not used. On the dock, previous clothing into a bag, blue medical suit and mask on. No luggage. A small bag only. Phone, charger, documents, bare essentials. Main baggage stayed on the ship. Bound for Rotterdam for disinfection. Passenger Helene Gossart told journalists afterward, "We're all in the same boat. Literally, you don't go on a trip like this thinking someone won't come home." Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus flew personally to Tenerife to reassure local residents who were frightened. He said, "This is not a second COVID, but it is a serious threat that knows no borders. Our priority is the dignity of passengers and the safety of the population."
I think we should also be strong believers of solidarity, because that's our best immunity.
By the time the last flight departed for Australia, the numbers looked like this: 8 cases, 3 deaths. Case fatality rate, 38%. Exactly what you would expect from Andes virus. And none of the 3 people who died were frail, elderly patients with underlying conditions. While Thomas lay in the USZ isolation unit, while diplomats negotiated over Gando Air Base, while passengers were posting on Twitter, someone in Frederick, Maryland was doing what he had done every working day for the past 30 years. Jay Hooper, virologist, U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases. Specialty, Hantaviruses. specifically Andes virus. He has been working on a vaccine since the 1990s. In May 2026, he gave an interview to Nature magazine. Climate change could alter rodent populations and increase the number of people entering areas where these rodents are present. Like any zoonotic virus, the situation is inherently unpredictable. Look at what happened with monkeypox. Why is there no vaccine after 30 years? 2 words: market scale. In 2025, 8 countries in the Americas reported 229 cases and 59 deaths combined for the whole year. Phase 3 trials require thousands of infected people in one location to produce statistical validity. These numbers never concentrate in one place. The disease is too rare, too geographically scattered. No market, no investment, no vaccine, no protection when an outbreak actually happens. The MV Hondius didn't change that math. 8 cases are a rounding error, but it changed something else. It demonstrated that Andes virus can travel, not just in the mountains of Patagonia, on a modern Polar Class 6 expedition vessel with a professional physician on board, for the first documented time in history. The next occurrence can happen anywhere. The only question is, what will have changed by then? Thomas survived. His story ended in the U.S. ZAL isolation box. Stable condition, gradual improvement. He walked out weeks later, his wife, healthy. 45 days of home quarantine, no symptoms. Now let's go back to the Doha Business Lounge. April 28th, a slight chill. Thomas didn't know he was infected. He was polite, cleaned up after himself, passed through passport control, shook hands with the agent at the gate. He wasn't irresponsible. He was invisible, even to himself. That is the core trap of Andes virus. It doesn't work like a flu cough in a crowded bus. It works through proximity, through care, through close space shared with another person. Mark's wife cared for him. Infected. The doctor examined him. Infected. Thomas spent weeks aboard the same corridors, at the same tables, breathing the same enclosed air. This is not an anomaly. It's the mechanism. Climate change is already reshaping rodent populations in Argentina and Chile. More rainfall, more food. A population explosion among the long-tailed rice mouse, the primary carrier of Andes virus. This is exactly what was happening in Argentine provinces in 2025 and 2026. Exactly why Hantavirus began appearing in Tierra del Fuego province, where it had never been recorded before. The tour routes won't stop. Ornithologists will keep visiting the Patagonian landfills to watch birds. Cruise companies will keep selling Atlantic Odyssey for 20,000 euros. When Thomas sat in the Doha lounge with a chill he thought was the air conditioning, what had found him had started in a Patagonian landfill, through a rodent burrow, through dust, through 70 years of one Dutch ornithologist's life, through a ship, through Atlantic air. Thomas survived. Mark didn't. His wife didn't. The German passenger didn't. There is still no vaccine.